Bernard Montgomery never learned the art of silence. He believed deeply in his own methods, trusted his judgment above most others, and spoke with a certainty that left little room for diplomacy. When he labeled American generals amateurs, it was not a careless joke or a private remark. It was a reflection of how he truly saw the Allied command structure, and it would cost him dearly. Montgomery came into World War II shaped by trauma and experience. He had lived through the slaughter of the First World War and emerged convinced that most military failures came from poor planning and reckless leadership. To him, war was not about bold improvisation or individual brilliance. It was about preparation, discipline, and overwhelming force. When he arrived in the Mediterranean and later in Northwest Europe, he judged everything through that lens. Many American generals came from a different tradition. They valued speed, initiative, and aggressive maneuver. Commanders like Patton believed momentum itself was a weapon. Montgomery saw this as dangerous. In his mind, these generals were learning modern warfare on the job, backed by massive American resources rather than hard-earned experience. When he used the word amateurs, he was not insulting their courage. He was questioning their understanding of war. The problem was not just what Montgomery believed. It was how he expressed it. He spoke openly, often publicly, and rarely softened his words. He criticized American tactics in front of journalists. He lectured Allied commanders as if he were their instructor. He framed British caution as wisdom and American aggression as naivete. In doing so, he humiliated men who commanded vast armies and answered to powerful political leaders. American officers did not forget this. Resentment grew quickly. They saw Montgomery as arrogant, condescending, and dismissive of their achievements. Many felt that British forces were no longer carrying the main burden of the war, yet Montgomery still acted as if he were the senior professional among students. The tension reached its peak after major operations in France. When Allied advances stalled, Montgomery emphasized the dangers of rushing forward. When American breakthroughs succeeded, he downplayed their significance or reframed them as part of his broader vision. This constant self-promotion, combined with his criticism of others, turned him into a lightning rod. Politically, this was disastrous. The United States was supplying the majority of men, equipment, and industrial power for the war in Western Europe. American generals were not just military figures. They were symbols of national pride. Montgomery's remarks were reported back to Washington, where they were received with growing anger. Dwight Eisenhower, as Supreme Commander, was forced into an impossible position. He needed Montgomery's experience and respected his planning skills, but he also needed to maintain Allied unity. Every comment Montgomery made threatening that unity became a liability Eisenhower had to manage. Montgomery paid the price not with a dramatic dismissal but with influence. His authority was gradually reduced. His vision for the war was increasingly ignored. Strategic decisions shifted away from his control. Where once he hoped to dominate Allied planning, he found himself constrained, overseen, and politically isolated. Even when he achieved success, his credibility was damaged. Market Garden, the operation he believed would prove his superiority, instead reinforced doubts about his judgment. American commanders who had been labeled amateurs now questioned whether Montgomery himself had overestimated his genius. The irony is that Montgomery was not entirely wrong. Many American generals were still learning large-scale modern warfare. They made mistakes. They paid for speed with casualties. But war is not judged only by correctness. It is judged by results, cooperation, and trust. Montgomery sacrificed all three by insisting on being right rather than being diplomatic. His words hardened divisions that should have remained private disagreements. Instead of shaping Allied strategy through persuasion, he alienated those whose support he needed. In coalition warfare, perception matters as much as competence. Montgomery failed to grasp that fully. By the end of the war, Montgomery remained a famous general, but not the dominant voice he believed he should be. He had labeled others amateurs, and in doing so, revealed his own blind spot. He understood war better than politics, and that weakness followed him long after the fighting ended. Montgomery paid the price not because he lacked skill, but because he underestimated the power of words. In a war won by alliances, he treated partners like students. And history shows that even the most capable commander can lose influence when arrogance replaces restraint.